Good morning. It's coffee chat time. Like I said, it's my birthday this weekend, and on Sunday, I will be 40 years old, and I can't believe it. I don't really have the, I guess, traditional societal woman's feelings about turning 40. I don't really feel sad about it. I don't know. I guess I'm supposed to have some sort of panic meltdown that my youth is over and I'm an old lady now. I can say I don't really feel old. It's age is kind of bizarre to me because I kind of thinking back on of course now the dog is eating. This is like a recurring thing in my videos. The dog is eating. Usually I pick up the food so they stop, but I'm just gonna let her eat. So I'm sorry that you got to hear my dog crunching food right next to me. But if I look back on the last 20 years of my life, at sometimes I feel like it was it happened in 2 weeks. Like for real, my children were babies 2 weeks ago. And at the same time, I feel like being 20 years old was a lifetime ago, and I don't even really remember what it was like to be 20 years old. But I can say I spent my 20s in the sleepless, zombie-like, what it's like in early motherhood. I didn't get enough sleep because I had young children. I was taking care of babies, and that was what my life consumed. And in my 30s, I think I was just trying not to have a nervous breakdown the whole time because I don't know, maybe all my life issues and childhood stuff was starting to come up. And now going into my 40s, I'm hoping that they're going to be a little bit better. I am going to pick up her food because it's way too noisy. So yeah, I'm 40 in a couple days. And for a really long time, if someone asked me how old I was, I would say 26. And it wasn't because I didn't want people to know how old I was. I just, at the age of 26, I guess I just felt really like I was an adult. Like I finally was an adult, and I had been waiting to be an adult for as long as I can remember because, I've heard the term old soul, and I've never really explored what that meant. And I have read things about it, whatever, but I never really explored what that meant. But I always kind of felt like an old lady all the time in this young person's body. Like I was an old lady. I always could relate really well to old ladies, and I do see a lot of them in my work because I work in a salon and, old ladies come in. I always call them the grannies. But I can remember, I remembered yesterday, I think, a question that I had asked my mom, and I must have still been living at home, so I was probably a teenager or something like that. And I remember asking her, Mom, at what point in your life do you stop feeling like you're waiting for something? Because I always felt like, and still do, I always feel like I'm waiting for the next thing. I'm looking for the next phase or the next thing that we're going to do or discover or whatever. She didn't really know how to answer that question. And then she said to me, you always ask me questions about things that I've never thought about. So that was probably the beginning of my asking questions that no one thought about. My younger son likes to ask questions about that, and he's an ENFP. But he likes to ask questions, and he has, since he could speak, asked questions, and mostly for him, they're intellectual things that he thinks about, science-y, history type things. But yeah, getting older, it's so bizarre because in my brain, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm any older than I was at 20. But then at the end of the workday, and sometimes halfway through the workday, my body says, "Girl, you're old," because my back hurts and my joints are sore and this body is aging. But I feel like in my brain, I still feel the same. So it is really strange. I'm not sad to be 40. I am kind of excited because I'm like, oh, am I really finally an adult? It's a really strange thing, and I actually worked through it a little bit in therapy. I think at my last session or maybe the session before, but I've always had this feeling of still feeling like a child. Not necessarily childlike in my behavior, but still feeling like I needed permission to do things. I needed permission from people around me, like a child. I know when my dad passed away, and my brother and I were left with the responsibility of planning his funeral, I just kept having this thought of, when is an adult going to step in and take over for us? Because we're children. And that might have been part of my pain of losing a parent. Of course, I'd never gone through that before, and there is no right way to go through that. But in that moment, I felt like, why am I making these decisions? I'm not an adult. And then my brother reminded me, Joy, we are the adults. You're almost 40, and I am, in my 40s. Yes, we are the adults. I haven't always liked my birthday. A lot of my birthdays, I feel like I've been, forgotten, like no one remembered them. I make a huge fuss over the birthdays for my family members, but I don't necessarily want a huge fuss made over me. I do want it remembered. I do like presents, so I do like to be surprised. And my family is getting, my daughter and my husband are getting really good at buying things for me and surprising me with things. I don't need expensive things, but I do like a surprise, and so I do appreciate it when they do that. I did have one time someone threw a birthday party for me, and they were trying to do it as a surprise, and one of my friends told this gal that if it was a surprise, you probably won't get Joy to come, because if you try to convince her that she's got to come for some other reason, she probably won't show up. So you might want to tell her that you're throwing a birthday party for her. And it was really uncomfortable. I didn't like it, because all the attention was focused on me, and all these activities and things they had planned was focused on me, and it was super uncomfortable. I was like, can we please celebrate somebody else? It's so bizarre to be turning 40. I'm like, are you sure I'm not 25? Because I don't know where all those years went. I feel like I was like focused on something else and not actually what year it was. And I feel the same way when my children have birthdays. My daughter recently turned 18, and I just can't believe it. I'm like, well, first of all, how do I have a child that old? And second of all, where did her childhood go? Because I feel like I can't remember most of it. So I'm just rambling here. I don't know that I'm making much point, but I just wanted to let you guys know I will probably not be on here over the weekend. Don't worry about me. I'm going out of town with my girlfriend, just to hang out and celebrate my birthday. And yeah, I'm excited to be 40. I hope that my 40s are a little more balanced than my 30s were. And I definitely get more sleep than I did in my 20s with young children. So, yeah, it's interesting to get older. I still feel young in my brain, but at the same time, I feel like I've always been an old lady, and maybe I've finally arrived at the age I was supposed to be. I don't know. As a younger person, a child, a teenager, I always felt like I was just too old for whatever was going on. I could never really involve myself in, the excitement and frivolity of being a teenager, because I felt like I was too old for it. So my husband might call it uptight. I'm just an old lady. I've always been an old lady. And now maybe not that 40 is old, my husband's 10 years older than me. But maybe my age is finally fitting where my brain's at, and I feel like an adult finally. And I don't know if that makes any sense. It makes sense to me. I'm trying to explain it, and I can't really. So Have a great weekend, guys. Have a great day today. My weather here is finally going to warm up a little bit and we might get some melting. Live and love out of the way you were created. I appreciate you so much.